Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Hightown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, there's the whole situation. Obviously, you have Jackie, kind of piecing everything together. Like, she goes to check. She wanted to make sure. So she goes to checks to Jack and Bobby, ask, Junior's dad, like, yo, like, did you go out on August 22nd? Like, check the records. If I win, I win. If I didn't, I didn't. And so they check it. And it's like, oh, looks like you didn't, but could it be possible someone took the boat? So she wanted to see if it was going to be Junior or whether it was going to be someone else. She's even asking Ed, like, you know, if Michael's kind of, what kind of person you think Michael is, like, and then even starts asking about Junior, and he's like, Junior's kind of got his troubles and stuff like that, like little stuff like this, nothing too crazy, but he's like, one time he's like near the pier or whatever, Junior sprayed something and literally had the evidence on his hands, but lied straight to Ed's face. He's like, he knew and I knew. He knew that I knew, but he still felt the need to lie. And, Jackie's like, but, that was back then. But then Ed says, once a liar, maybe always a liar. And so that made Jackie go like, because there was a part of her, it's like, yeah, that's her friend and everything. She didn't want to believe the worst, but it's like, hey, he's involved in all of this, and I've got all the evidence now. It's like, he's sure as shit involved in all of this. He's been lying to my face, especially that line, once a liar, always a liar. I mean, that means he's been lying to me this entire time. So there's that. There's also this interesting thing where Ray is having this nightmare about Sherry, because at first I was like, oh, are we going back in time? Are we going back to the moment he first met Sherry? Which I think that's what that still is, but it doesn't go the way. I thought we could have a little bit of flashback of how they got to where they are. And he's like, oh, you can work for me. And she's like, I'll give you head. And he's like, oh, yeah? And she's like, no, I think you're missing story. I don't mean give you head. I mean give you my head. And she turns and there's the bullet wound in her head. And it's like, he has it, because for him it's just, the whole thing, obviously, like, Sherry was his responsibility, and he kind of brings this up later on. But obviously, Renee, hearing what Frankie said last episode, because I think I forgot to actually talk about that. The fact is, Frankie told Renee, it's like, oh, he was sleeping with Sherry. So because it's like, oh, you're here all in love with Ray. The fact of the matter is, you're basically kind of suggesting you're just another piece of ass to him. Like he kind of abuses his power in the sense of like, yeah, he hooks up with his CIs and stuff like that. So it's like, you're nothing special. But obviously, even she's asking like, why with me? And he's like, oh, because you're so beautiful. She's like, no, I get, like, but she's like, that's not really answering my question, He even says bluntly, he's like, yeah, from the beginning, that's what it was. Like, I was using you as an informant. Like, it's sad to hear that, but it's true. But for him, it's like, you make me feel good. Like, you make me feel like not everything in this world is shit, So it's like, that makes Renee feel good. It makes him feel good. But then later on, Renee finds a paper saying, like, it's basically, you have to, I guess, sign stuff as expenditures and say it's for your informant and stuff like that. And makes her go, so part of me was wondering, it's hard because I've always been under the impression his relationship with Renee was serious, that it wasn't just a confidential informant thing. I think he just probably uses that as an excuse. Well, to be fair, like, no one knows that Renee is actually his informant. Like, no one else knows that. But the cop that works there, she had said, like, she kind of already knew about Ray and Sherry, so she kind of felt like the same thing was kind of happening with Renee. So I don't remember if the others actually know that she's his informant. So that's why I'm wondering, is he lying because I guess the argument could be like, he's just using this as an expense, whereas like, actually, I don't have to pay money for it. I can actually get my job to pay for it. So that could be, or at the very least, he can get reimbursed for money he had to spend, as undercover and stuff. Like, I'm sure you also have to like make sure like you jot down all money spent so they don't feel like there's some like shady stuff going on behind the scenes. You kind of account for all the money and stuff like that. But nevertheless, it hits Renee, making her go like, oh, I guess I'm not special. And obviously she brings that up to Ray because she shows up at his job. He's like, whoa, what are you doing here? She's like, it's like, oh, is it that bad? She's like, I'm sorry, I'm sure. He's like, no, you can't be here. He's like, yeah, but you the man, they won't be too happy about it. The people in suits and stuff like, she's like, what? And he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't like that, but it's kind of like, you need to go. She's about to leave one. He's like, no, leave the other way. It's almost like you're trying to hide your booty call in that. And sadly, that's, what, and even in that moment, you can tell Renee probably just feels like that. Oh, like, I'm just hit it and quit it. Especially because it's like, you spent so much time with me, you got close to me, you got close to my son, just for you to be treating me like that. And it's just like, I guess it's hard to say where Ray stands on that. Whether it is the fact is he just 100% using Renee? Because it seems like he hasn't pumped Renee for information since like Osito's girlfriend. That's the last bit of information from her he's gotten. So like that's why I feel like he's using that as a means to cover his tracks, because a lot of people might have known about him and Sherry, so he wants to make it look more legitimate, and them kind of fraternizing like that make it seem like it's not legitimate. That's what I'm thinking, but I could be mistaken. He could just be using her. Maybe Sherry was kind of the real deal, and maybe Renee's kind of almost like a rebound in a sense. I don't know. It's hard to really say what's in Ray's heart, when it comes to this whole situation. So, meanwhile, Junior's calling up Donna, kind of basically saying goodbye to her, because I thought at first I was like, is he saying goodbye because he knows they're going to be coming to kill him, which we'll get to that soon enough. I thought that's where he was going with that, but it's like for him it's like I got to disappear because like I'm a piece of shit. You think I'm a good person, I'm not. He's like, I'm not using right now, but the fact of the matter is, he even says I'm a killer. Like the fact of the matter is, you need to just kiss our daughter goodbye for me, and just like he wants to get as far away from them, because it's like I can't be around you because I'm not a good person. I don't deserve to be around you. So, like I said, I thought it was under the impression of like, oh, like he knew they were coming to kill him, but it was more so, or rather he thought like, oh, this world I'm mixing, I'm going to end up dead sooner or later. But it's just because it's like all the darkness, it's shit I'm dealing with, what I'm carrying, what I did. Was he directly responsible for Sherry or Krista's death? To a certain extent, yes, but at the same time, it's more so like that was never him. He never actually did it, but it's still like he carries that, because no matter, even if I'm not the one who directly did it, I played my role in this, whether it was covering up or helping it. Because once again, he was going to kill Krista, but Krista didn't take the drugs, so it came down to Osito doing it, So there's that. But circling back to what I was saying, like Osito gets the call from Frankie. Yo, that boy needs to be taken care of. Obviously, Osito didn't, and that struck me the moment Osito was like, he was like, damn. He was like, he was frustrated because it's like, because Junior's become like his boy, and it's like, you telling me to put my boy down, and it's like, is that going to be a problem? He's like, I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing. So I was like, you need me to do this? I'll do it. He's almost kind of getting like passive aggressive with it. It's like, is there anything else you need me to do? I mean, to be fair, that's why I was thinking interesting, because it's like, Osito was already pulling away from Frankie anyway, because he was just tired of being like Frankie's little like grunt, it's like always gotta do shit for Frankie. Like he was already tired of it, because his whole dealings with Wayne that they kind of set up last episode. So already felt like that was already no, it wasn't last episode, that was that, yeah, that was last episode in fact. So you could already tell that was already kind of happening, but because obviously for Frankie, he couldn't take any like chances. It's like, oh, Scotty got arrested, Scotty got killed, which that whole thing sent Alan and Ray, the entire precinct, like, all right, we gotta find this dude, because they didn't know it was Junior at the time. We need to find this dude because Frankie's cleaning the house. This will be our last chance. If we don't get him, Frankie gets away with all of this. So, and obviously at the same time you have Jackie trying to find Junior. You have Osito and Kizzle showing up at Donna's place, him being kind of the piece of shit, Kizzle being who he is. And I think that's, in this moment, you find out, like, Osito's obviously got standards, which is crazy to think, because he's not one of, because, there's, like, in certain shows, they'll showcase, like, there's, like, certain criminals, they do have a code. It's like, they'll kill people, but it's like, I won't do women or children. That's just them, But like Kizzle's just acting like a piece of shit, talking about Donna like, oh, are you tight down there after popping out a baby? My girl, I told you the doctors put a couple more stitches. It's like, all right, dude. I was like, are you gonna be like a disgusting piece of shit right now? You already are, but I was like, hopefully he does. But it's like, luckily Osito was there to kind of keep him in line. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? He's like, it's we already going to kill Junior. Last thing you need to do is be messing with his old lady. He's like, that's some psycho shit. Which even that was his whole thing too. Like, because he made it clear from the beginning after the whole, situation that he was like, not being bothered by stuff is very psychopathic. And even kind of telling Kizzle like, yo, give me an excuse, like to kind of put you down. And Kizzle kind of shut up. And like, because Kizzle wanted to act so hard, So when it's all said and done, eventually Jackie goes to Donna and talks to her. And obviously for Donna, she's like, I'm done with Junior. She's like, I'm stupid enough to take him back every time. But like, I'm not, because Jackie's like, I should probably go alone. She's like, you thought I was going to go? She's like, no, like, because I need to be looking after our daughter. And I promise I'd never let our daughter see him like that. which that statement is so almost not. I don't irony. I mean, irony is fucked up. So I guess irony would be like the right word in this particular case. We'll get to that soon enough, but and Jackie trying to make her feel better by being like, it's not like the fact is everything he's done trying to get money, going to AA, everything was about you, showing like he was trying for you. She's like, I get what you're trying to be nice and everything, but it just makes me feel like I wasn't enough for him, considering I wasn't enough to kind of keep him on the right track. And it's just like, it's mainly because things kind of spiraled out from what they were. Like he was hustling and doing his thing on the side, drugs and stuff like that, sure, but then it became so much more. It became disposing of a body, then tracking down and killing someone else. It got away from him, and he didn't realize things were going to get to what they were. Jackie ends up finding Junior first, but Junior's in his room getting high. She's like, I already know you're using, bro. I know you're disposed to Sherry's body. You had anything to do with Krista's murder and stuff like that. And he was just, Cito and Kizzle showed up, and he was like, I need you to get out of here, because if you don't, and they find out you're the one asking questions, they will kill you. So she bounces. They take Junior, which makes sense. It's like, you don't want to be doing that in a hotel room again, because you already did it, and that led to the whole Krista situation. So like Krista's body being discovered and everything, so can't let that, so they got to go somewhere remote. Then when they actually get to that point, like, obviously, like, Jackie meets up with Ray, tells Ray what's going down, and it's like, my friend Junior, like, I need you to protect him, look after him, like, and he kind of lays it down about, like, all right, like, this is what happened, he's connected to Sherry's death, he tried not to keep any records, but there's a tracker on the boats that can't be fucked with, so it's like, he didn't know about that, or there was nothing he could do about it. More so, he didn't know about it. So that's how she ended up obviously being able to track him last episode / this episode, finding out like where he had the whole thing, because the boat went to Truro where Sherry was killed. So, and obviously it's a thing of like, all right, the clock is time is on the what is the metaphor I'm looking for? Time is running out, essentially, because it's like, obviously they now know Osito and Kizzle have him, so it's like it's only be a matter of time before they kill him. Obviously Jackie wants to go, Ray's kind of like, no, but for her it's like, this is my responsibility. She's like, because like Krista called me and I kind of messed up, she's like, this is kind of all on me, because she's always felt like it was, because it's like, well, for one, now it's like her friend is the one that has a part, Junior had a part to play in it, so that makes her even more involved, plus she's the one that found Sherry's body. It's like, this has always kind of been on me, even more so now, because Krista was killed by a friend of mine, so it makes this even more mine. So they show up at the mechanic's place, the auto place, and obviously Osito and them are not there, so it's like, if they're not here, where are they? They go in the woods, and Kizzle was kind of getting to the point, he was getting frustrated. Part of me was like, and he's just kind of like, all right, we're going to end this. And, Osito was looking for an excuse not to pull the trigger. He's like, have you been talking to the cops? He's like, no, I'm not stupid. And Kizzle kept going. I was like, is this going to go down the way I think it is? Please tell me it's going to go down the way I think it is. And Osito pulls out a gun, pops Kizzle. I was like, yo. But it don't stop there. It's like, all right, we're going to have to chop off his head and his hands, because they don't want the body at the very least, they want to make it harder to identify the body. And it's just like, whoa. I think for Junior, it probably was a little bit, I mean, granted, it's sickening because you can tell he was about to throw up, and it's like, oh, the shit I have to do, but it's like, well, this dude was going to pop you, so I'm sure in his mind it makes it a little bit better, but still. But that was kind of impressive, because not impressive, impressive is the wrong fucking word to use. It's actually sad, because, not sad, damn, it's a weird situation, because at the same time, you're like, you can kind of get where, like, where Osito was coming from, because it's like, once again, he said it himself, he has a certain code, and it's like that, despite everything, Junior's got his shit on lock. Kizzle seems deranged in this moment, and it's like, you need to be taken care of. It's like, so now it's on both of them. If it ever comes out from Frankie that Junior isn't dead, it's going to be both Junior and Osito to get killed. So it's like they throw away like Kizzle's hands and feet hands and head inside of a bag and put it in the water. So, and the question is like, why did you do that for me? And he's like he said, because he has his code. But like I said, I think it's just for him. It's like, Junior's been a part of this for you to just kind of like toss him aside. Because also, once again, is what I brought up earlier, like Frankie is on the inside. it's always, Osito that has to do all the grunt work. So he's like, fuck Frankie. Because he, like I said, he was already in that mentality already. He was already going to like try and double dip everything. But for him, it's like, I'm curious, like, is he going to completely stop working for Frankie and Tyler? Is he going to be like, you know what, deuces, work with Wayne? Because it's like, well, to be fair, Frankie still has connections, so Frankie could get someone to kill him. I mean, like, he probably could have gotten Kizzle to do it, but I mean, you also don't know who else is in his arsenal. At the very least, we're only aware of Kizzle and Osito being some of his people on the outside. Who knows who else on the outside he has? Obviously, he has connections in the prison because he's got some of the guards on his payroll and he's got some of the prisoners on his payroll. So who knows who else he could get to kind of handle stuff. So I don't know if like Osito could easily just be like deuces and bounce away. So he probably still has to do his thing with Wayne. He'd have to secretly do his thing with Wayne while still secretly working with Frankie and making it seem like it. Because I was also sure that's probably what he was hoping for, that even if they did find Kizzle's body, it's not just about identifying it as Kizzle, but also making it go like, oh man, this must be Junior's body. Especially because Junior threw his hoodie in there, mainly because it was covered in blood and just no point in keeping clothes that are covered in, a crime. But I thought it was supposed to be even more misleading to make it seem like that was Junior when it wasn't. I thought that was also kind of an angle to it. They get him like a bus ticket and some money. And it was actually kind of this interesting scene between them because like Osito's kind of telling him, it's like, all right, my cousin in Miami, he's going to hook you up, but no more of this drug stuff, either for you or me. Like no more like sniffing on your own product, because it's like, you got a new chance, so take it. Obviously Junior really appreciates it because it's like, all that you've done for me. He's like, I screw things up with my baby mama, and it's like, don't worry, she already took you back before, she'll take you back now, sooner or later. Soon you could get to the point when it's all quieted down and everything's good, you can even send for her, but for now you need to disappear because no one can know that you're still alive. He's even saying like, I'll go back to the DR so that I can probably stay on the low too with everything going down, so I just thought that was, interesting. And I was, and it's just, it was interesting to see that side of Osito, because seeing that he's loyal only to certain people, for him to have that type of loyalty for Junior, I just thought that was so fascinating, and I guess just everything that he's done, because it's a whole conversation of like, yeah, you, like you said, just wake up one day and just be like, oh, like all you think about is breakfast and shit. And it's like, I think even Osito himself is still haunted by the stuff that he does. We're both soldiers and everything, but I think he found kinship in, because, like I said, Kizzle was a psychopath. He just was so quick and so down for all this stuff. Like, Osito had his reservations about anything that he had to do. And I think he saw that in Junior. And maybe like you could make the argument like being around Junior kind of brought a little bit more light to his life or something like that. It's weird to say that, but like maybe he found some other kinship, a friend in that darkness, where it's like someone who isn't just 100% about that. I don't know. It's hard to say, considering the fact is Osito is still about that life, because he's still particularly probably going to still be a part of that stuff with Wayne, but he probably doesn't want to have to be in the shoes that he's in right now. Could be his own boss, never have to answer to someone like Frankie, or probably just having to do the stuff Frankie needs him to do. It's like, I don't want to be that type of person, the killer and stuff like that. Once again, he said he's been like that since he was like 15, because that's when his brother put him in that position, but it's still like, okay. Obviously, Jackie ends up talking to the guy they found out has Osito's car, and it's like, okay, so because of that, she ends up talking to him, and he ends up going like, all right, all the stuff he ended up bringing to him is like, all right, taking a bus, going to Miami, track down the bus. It's like, okay, the bus stops, and it's like, well, before that, it's actually an interesting conversation, I should also say. Ray, ends up bringing up the fact is that Sherry was his informant. So for him, it's like, he's like, I promised to protect her, but I didn't. Even in that episode where he was chastising Jackie about the whole Krista thing, it never crossed my mind to remember, right, his connection with Sherry. So I think he found kinship, and he's like, I get it, why you're like a dog with a bone, with this whole situation, because he's like, I understand it because I'm in that same situation. You want to go after this because of Krista, I want to go after this because of Sherry. Like, there's actually kind of kinship in that. Like, he's like, I get it when you feel like you failed the person you promised to protect. And so for him, it's like, it's a thing of understanding, like, hey, I know exactly how you're feeling, why this is so important to you, what, the same reason it's so important to me. So I thought that was kind of a nice conversation. But they roll up at the bus, and I'm like, okay. At first I was like, okay, Junior's not getting off. I was like, don't tell me, because the way I was wondering, I was like, did Osito change his mind last minute? I was like, no, but why would he do all this and have done what he did with Kizzle if that he was going to change his mind last minute? So part of me was like, he's not getting off the bus. Please don't tell me he overdosed on the bus. I was like, please don't. But he's not on there. I was like, oh. And then they're at the bathroom. They're back at where the bus at the bus station. I was like, did Osito kill him? I was like, don't tell me. Did he Yep, he overdosed. I was like, Jesus, dude, that sucks. And because this was never going to be a story where there was going to be a happy ending on any front. It's just like, it's sad because also this puts them in a position where like they have nothing to go against Frankie. I mean, granted, it all in an effed up way, it all worked out for Frankie in the end. But I'm sure like they're going to have to track down Osito because they need to take Osito down if they want to take Frankie down because of all of this. Because like Osito's the last key to taking down Frankie, which Osito might do it just to be able to say like, F it, all right, let's go. I don't know. If it means taking down Frankie, maybe he will. But it's a whole code of not snitching and stuff like that. I don't know. He might not be Frankie's favorite person, but he knows if he rats on Frankie, like he's as good as dead. So it's like, I'm curious to see how that ends up playing out, especially when Jackie finds out, because it's like, despite everything, that was her friend. Yeah, he made his mistakes. I mean, what about Donna? And that's the line I was saying, like, it's kind of like how irony can be fucked up, obviously. But, like, that's why I was kind of thinking, like, that could be the irony of it, because Donna said that line of, like, I'd never want my daughter to see him and stuff like that. And it's like, for him to die like that, and it's just like, that's where I was like, that's where I think the irony comes from. But it's like, heavy ass way to end the episode, and obviously it's just kind of like, well, where do you go from here? Like, I mean, what else? What other moves can they make? Like I said, there's the whole Cito thing. Also curious to see what happens with Renee, because obviously she's turned against Ray, because it's so interesting, because like both of them started this whole thing because it was for them. Like, so for Renee got close to Ray because Frankie asked her to. Ray got close to Renee to take down Frankie. So now it's a thing of like, she realizes like, oh, I kind of caught feelings for a guy that I shouldn't have. So it's like, what is she going to do now, in the grand scheme of things? I'm curious to see where her story goes. I'm curious to see where all of this goes. I believe next week's episode is, in fact, the season finale. So I'm curious to see how this story ends up potentially wrapping up, But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good